Hello, algebra students. All right, we're going to do a week or so of some exponential functions, review exponentials, because that's going to lead into a unit on sequences. All right? All right, we're going to graph this equation, all right? Y equals 80 times 1/2 to the x, all right? Now, if you don't have a calculator, you want to make sure you have the Calculate 84 app downloaded, all right? It works just like the graphing calculator, all right? So we're going to go to y equals, all right, 80 parentheses 1/2. Remember, 1/2 is just 1 divided by 2. Make sure you close the parentheses, exponent, which remember is below the clear button, x. All right. Now, you're welcome to look at the graph, but it's going to get cut off most of it. All right. What you really want to do is look at the table. So I'm going to go to my table. All right. And I'm having you start at 0. All right. And at 0, it's 80. At 1, it's 40. At 2, it's 20. At 3, it's 10. And at 4, it's 5. And hopefully what you're noticing is the pattern, because next we're going to look at a table of values and we're going to try to write the equation. And if you look going from 80 to 40, you might think it's subtracting 40, but then the next value wouldn't be 20. So hopefully you realize that from one value to the next, we're dividing by 2. And dividing by 2 is just not a coincidence. It's dividing by 2 because our base is 1/2. All right? All right, I'm going to graph these points. I'm going to talk about more the connection here. So at 0, it's 80. All right? Watch the scale on the x's. Every 2 boxes is 1. At 1, it's 40. And then at 2, it's 20. At 3, it's 10. And at 4, it's 5. All right, and you should see a curve. All right, and hopefully you also notice that this curve from left to right is decreasing, okay? All right, so what's going on? Let's look at our equation. Y equals 80 times 1/2 to the x. Remember our general form of an exponential. The coefficient, the 80, is the y-intercept. Notice that was our y-intercept, 0, 80. This 1/2 is the scale factor. This is what you're multiplying by from one value to the next to get one value, you go from one value to get the next value. So if I multiply 80 times 1/2, that's 40. 40 times 1/2, that's 20. 20 times 1/2, that's 10. All right? So the coefficients, the y-intercept, the base of the function is the scale factor. So if I wrote my general formula for exponential, y equals a times b to the x, a is the y-intercept, b is the scale factor. That's your multiplier. That's what you multiply by. All right? Notice it's 1/2 and our function was decreasing. All right, look at number 2. I don't want to graph y equals 10 times 2 to the x. So I'm going to go back to y equals. Okay. I'm going to clear out what was there. And it's going to be 10 parentheses 2. Make sure you hit this exponent button, because if you don't, it's going to look linear instead of exponential. All right. I'm going to quickly look. Oh, you know what? The graph, you're not going to, well, you will see part of it, but it's going to get cut off. All right. Hopefully you notice this time it's increasing. All right, and if you remember, there are reasons why it would increase versus decrease, okay? If your base is greater than 1, it's going to increase. So on this one, the base is 2. That's greater than 1. That's why this one increases. If your base is less than 1, it's going to decrease. All right, that's why at number 1, our base was 1/2. It was less than 1, our function went down. On number 2, our function is going to go up. All right, ultimately, you want to look at the table. So hit second graph. All right, at 0, it's 10. All right, At 1 it was 20. At 2 it was 40. At 3 it's 80. At 4 it's 160. All right, now we'll approximate that 160, but that's going to go off the page. All right, and hopefully you realize that this is not a coincidence, okay? The values, as you go from 10 to 20, they are multiplying by 2. From 20 to 40, they're multiplying by 2. All right, that is no coinkydink. All right, the reason why they're multiplying by 2 is because our base is 2. That's telling us what's happening from one value to the next. All right, so I'm going to plot my function, 0, 10. All right, then the next point was 120. So I go over to 1 up to 20. All right, it looks very gradual at first, but you'll see it's going to go up rapidly. At 2, it goes up to 40. At 3, it's going to go up to 80. All right, and I'd like to get this one more point, so I'm going to approximate it. At 4, it's going to go up to 160, so I'm going to add like a box. All right, and you should notice that our function is curved. All right, and again, when this base is greater than 2, it's going to increase. And when your base is less than 1, it's going to decrease. So your base is less than 1, it's going to decrease. Your base is greater than 1, it's going to increase. All right, and that's graphing exponentials. All right, why don't I do one more with you? All right. All right, number 3. I want to graph y equals 16 times 1/2 to the x. All right, so I go to my calculator. 16 parentheses 1/2, 1 divided by 2, exponent x. Right, if you want to take a quick look at the graph to see what it looks like. All right, it's going to decrease. All right. Go to my table. All right, I'm going to go from 0 to 4. So at 0, it's 16. At 1, it's 8. At 2, it's 4. At 3, it's 2. And at 4, it's 1. All right. And again, you should notice that from 16 to 8, it's getting cut in half. From 8 to 4, it's getting cut in half. All right, the reason why it's multiplying by a half is because our base is a half. All right, and you should also notice that 0, 16 is our y-intercept. And remember, it's y-intercept because 16 is that coefficient. All right, this one should be decreasing because our base is less than 1. All right, so 0, 16, 1, 8. Then we had 2, 4, 3, 2, and 4, 1. All right? And at 5, it was like 0.5, so I'm going to approximate that. All right? It's going to level out and really get close to 0, but it should never really touch 0, so it's going to go like this. All right? All right, finish the worksheet. All right, I'm going to post the answers. All right, email me with any questions. Talk to you soon. All right, when you go to do number 4, use a scale of 1. Make every box 1. All right? All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.